Welcome back to Homestead HQ, where we talk about homesteading and preparedness. This is Shelly.
And I'm Jason. And on today's episode, our main topic, if you caught episode 1, this is episode 2 of our podcast that we've done. Our first episode, we kind of went in an intro of how Shelly and I have met each other and how we got to where we're at right now as far as being friends and the stuff that we're doing. Today, we thought it would be a good idea to talk about how we got into preparedness, homesteading, and kind of where we started and where we're at now. So, Shelly, kind of tell everybody where you started out and where you're at now and what kind of led you in to the path that you're taking on your farm.
Well, let me think about this. I met a guy, the job that I actually have right now, I met a guy who was he's the guy that did like our payroll, accounts payable, stuff like that at the place that I worked at. And, he was kind of a conspiracy theorist. And I remember... Kinda.
Okay.
So this is back when Ebola was going crazy. Like, it was in the news and there were people...
Oh, yeah, Ebola?
Yeah, like, it came over from Africa, I guess, and there were people in Texas, and, I mean, it was kind of...
Everybody was buying their Tyvek suits and their booties.
Yeah. So,
Not that I did that.
So, and my friend, we had a group where I work that we would, like send out emails when we were on break or something like that about different conspiracy things going on and just chasing rabbits down holes and all that kind of stuff. And so he's the one that actually got me turned on to homesteading. And he started sharing with me different homesteading channels on YouTube, which at the time, so I'm thinking this was like 2014, 2015, something like that. And so at the time, it was Becky's Homestead. She's down in Florida. And Roots and Refuge. He sent me their YouTube channel. So I started watching these homesteading channels, and like the more you watch something, the more it's going to recommend different channels for you. So I just kind of started diving into that, and I remember thinking that would be so awesome, like to just grow my own food, have my own stuff, not be reliant on the system and all that kind of stuff. But at the time, it didn't really seem doable to me.
Feasible to you.
It didn't feel like something that would that I would just be able to accomplish. And in the past, I had planted gardens over the years. Randy and I have been married more than 30 years, so throughout time we had planted gardens. I think I might have had 2 successful gardens in like 20 years or something like that. And so that was a big part of it, why it didn't seem like it was going to be feasible. The other part of it was trying to get Randy on board with it. Because I'm going to tell you, if you're thinking about homesteading and you're married and the person that you're married to is not thinking about homesteading...
Oh, yeah. It's an uphill battle.
That can be a problem because, Jason and I are doing this podcast. We do Kentucky Sustainable Living. We do the festival. We teach about homesteading. It's our passion to teach people to be self-sufficient and all of that kind of thing. But it's not easy. Homesteading is hard work.
Oh yeah, it's not all the glamorous stuff, made up like you see. It's not Instagram post all the time. I mean, there's a lot of it. When I'm done working, especially summers like what we've got right now, I mean, you're 95 degrees and 1,000% humidity. It's hotter than Satan's crotch out there right now. I mean, you're not made up nice and everything like you see on Instagram. I mean, you're sweaty and you're stinky and nasty, and that's the last thing you want to post on Instagram. But that's kind of the real deal as opposed to some of the people. So it's not all, what is it, rainbows and unicorn farts or something every day.
So I wasn't real sure how I was going to get Randy on board with it. And at the time, Randy was driving over the road. So Randy's a truck driver. He now has a job where he's home every night, but at that time he was driving over the road, so he would be gone for 1 to 2 weeks at a time. And me even thinking that planting a garden is one thing, but thinking that I was going to have, like livestock and stuff like that, it just wasn't doable to me. So then I decided, I got it in my head that I was going to, I kept watching videos on YouTube and kept getting more and more inspired and all that kind of stuff. So inspired, yeah. So I thought, I'm gonna get chickens. I'm gonna go get chickens and bring chickens home. And of course, Randy was like, I don't want chickens. So, but I'm determined. So I go out in the backyard and I was like bringing home used pallets and stuff from work and everything, tearing lumber apart. Because another thing, homesteading, you need to figure out how to be frugal or you're going to get yourself in a hole really quick. So I'm bringing home lumber from work and trying to build a chicken coop. And I'm not, I can build stuff. It may not be as perfect as what this guy does because that's what he does for a living, but I can build stuff and my chickens don't care what it looks like. So I'm out there working on it, and Randy is like so opposed to this, he's not helping me, which just infuriates me, right? So I'm out there working on it and everything. I think I got a couple of my daughters in helping me and everything, but I never finished it. And I gave up on it. And then, it was probably 2018, I think. A different friend that I work with, he has a small homestead in the county next to the county that I live in. And he raised pigs. And so he's at work one day and he says, I've got piglets for sale if you want to buy some piglets.
And you're all over it.
And I'm like, I like bacon. I like bacon. And I said, how much do you want for these piglets? And he said, $25. Well, hell yeah. I'm going to go get some piglets.
That works.
So, and we lived, no joke, we lived on 6/10 of an acre. So that's a little over half an acre. And I go over to his place. I buy 2 piglets. I put them in one of those big dog crate carrier things in the back of my pickup truck. And bring them home. Well, before I brought them home, they were in the pickup. I go to Tractor Supply and I buy some hog panels and some T-posts. And Randy had been gone. Or no, by this time he was working the job that he does now. So he was home every night, but he works at night. So he came home and went to bed. I go to my friend's house, pick up the piglets, go to Tractor Supply, get all the supplies. I come home. I'm pounding posts and everything, and I get the fence up, and it was like we had our backyard fenced in, so I just had 2 hog panels that made like the other side to kind of square it in. And he wakes up around, I don't know, 1:30 or something like that, and I just got the finishing touches on it, got the hog panels up and everything, and I'm getting ready to get the pigs out, and he walks out into the backyard, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, Nothing. I brought that home, and I pointed at the truck, and he couldn't see what was in there because it was in like this dog crate carrier. And he walks over there and he goes, "What the hell?" So we had 2 pigs and we raised them in our backyard. And the funny thing was that Randy fell in love with those pigs, and we still raise pigs today. And he loves raising pigs. And but when we did that, we raised them, we fed them and all that stuff. But we had to take them to a butcher to have them processed. That's expensive, y'all.
Yes, it is.
If you don't know how to process your own animals, setting up a processor and doing that, along with the cost of feed, if you don't have a setup to feed them for free, and at some future episode, we'll get into talking about that because Jason does that. But if you don't have a setup to feed them for free, and if you don't know how to process your own animals, you can get into some money doing that. And
also you make sure if you process your own animal, you're getting your own animal.
Yeah, you get your own animal. But even then, even paying for feed and paying for processing, even then, you know where your food came from.
Yep.
even when you're doing that, yes, it gets pricey. Sometimes that price is worth it because you know where your food comes from. So we got into doing the pigs. We had 2 pigs that first time, and then I don't think that was at our old house before we bought our farm. I don't think we got any other pigs then. The turning point for us, though, that whole time, you know, Randy was like, I'm not into homesteading and all this kind of stuff. He did like, we love having our own bacon. He did get into that. But when everything happened in 2020, I came home, well, you know, we saw everything that happened. I think the big wake up call was going to places like Walmart and the grocery store and seeing bare shelves.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't really care about all of the craziness that was going on, but actually seeing bare shelves in the grocery stores, that I had never in my lifetime seen anything like that.
Oh yeah, it was scary to see all the bare shelves. You couldn't get this, you couldn't get that.
Yeah.
You don't know if there's something that's going to wipe everybody out or what's going on. If you're going to have food tomorrow, that was the wake up call for a lot of people for sure.
So I came home from work one day. And I go into the backyard, and Randy is building a chicken coop.
You converted.
And I said, I was like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I think that we need to get a hold of this food thing." He said, "I don't like what's happening," and he said, "I don't like not being in control of my own food."
Yeah.
And he was that was the big moment, the aha moment, the red pill moment, whatever you want to call it. That was what it was for him. And so he built a chicken coop. We went and got chickens, started raising our own flock, and then that was, let's see, all of that happened in 2020. I think we got our flock, you know, it was probably August or something like that. And then we started looking for land in December of that year, and we bought our farm in the spring of 2021. So, and that, you know, it's just kind of grown from there, gardening and all of that kind of stuff. But that was, you know, and like Jason just said, that year was a big wake up call for everybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Now where are you at now? You've got your farm, you've got pigs.
So we've got 14 and a half acres in South Central Kentucky. We have pigs. We have our breeding pair of pigs that I really think, I kind of thought it was a great idea to get into big hogs. And I like lots of, you know, like I like lots of bacon and lots of pork chops and all that kind of stuff. I don't like dealing with big hogs. I figured out that that's not my thing. I think I would rather have smaller hogs.
Well, our plan, because we've talked about it, because I've got big pigs too. I had some Julianas, and I was like, man, the juice isn't worth the squeeze on these things. So I was like, let's get some big pigs. So I've got big pigs now, and I want to go back to smaller pigs. So we've talked about it. We're probably, each one of us is going to get a breeding pair of Cooney Coons.
Yeah.
And then that way we've got 2 separate, you know, bloodlines and stuff. And if we want to switch up or do something like that, we've got fresh blood with it. So I'm going to move into the Cooney Coons too, and Shelly is too. So that.
But we've got with our big hogs, we've got we've got 2 not cut males, full grown males, and a sow. So those 3, and then we've got a half. Let's see, 3. I think we have 6. We have 6 hogs. And so we're going to drastically downsize those this fall because we just need to wait till it gets cold to process them. But we have our pigs. We have 4 sheep, ewes, Katahdin ewes.
The most amazing. They're the most amazing ewes ever.
We actually named them after the Golden Girls. Randy came up with that. So we've got Rose, Blanche. I don't know their names. Rose, Blanche, Sophia, and what's the B. Arthur character? I can't think of her name. Anyway, we have the 4 Golden Girls. Then we have silver fox rabbits that we raise for meat. And We have chickens and we have guineas.
And you've got a livestock guardian dog by name, but it's not done much yet, has it?
No, he's still a puppy. So he's a Great Pyrenees. His name is Loki. And we got him because of the sheep. Because right now we don't have our whole pasture fenced in. So when that gets done, then Loki will go out with the sheep in the pasture and protect them and make sure that they're all okay. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
Well, what future stuff? Yeah, I know you got future plans because I came out and looked about the fencing and helping you kind of figure out the fence. Once you get the fence put in, you're going to get 1,000 cattle, right?
No.
I've got a cow and a bull calf.
I do not want any cows. I don't know. Cows are intimidating to me. And a lot of people, you know, I'm not into anything I'm not into dairy. Yeah. Like I'm not into anything that's going to tie me down that I got to deal with every morning. And I mean, I'm cool with feeding my animals and all that, but I'm not cool with milking and all of that. So I'm not really interested in having goats. No, and
goats suck.
I'm not really interested in having cows just because right now, in the position that we're in right now, I have plenty of people out there that homesteaders, other farmers and stuff that I know that raises those animals that I can get, like my beef. You know, I get that from a lady that lives about 30 minutes from me, and I just as long as I don't have to go to Walmart there's a couple local grocery stores that have good meat.
Yeah.
And they get it locally sourced and all that stuff. I'm fine with that, but I'm not to getting produce or meat from big box stores. Now, I'm not saying that I haven't. If we had like a last minute, you know, like let's do a cookout or something and I need to run and get some hamburgers because I don't have enough in my freezer, yeah, I'll do that. I'm not anti all of that, but I try not to purchase my meat and produce and stuff from big box stores. If anything that I don't grow or I don't raise, I try to get it from the farmer's market or locally sourced people that I know raise it and don't have all kinds of chemicals in it and stuff like that. I'm not adamant about stuff being organic. There's the funny thing about organic certification is that they still allow chemicals to be used. They still allow them to do things that honestly you would think is not an organic practice. So that's not really a big deal to me. But I just try to support local and buy local and know where my food comes from and know how it's raised and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, even doing that, I mean, you're a lot better off sourcing as much stuff as you can local. I try to source as much stuff as I can local. I hate going into Meijer or Kroger or something like that and buying beef. I mean, sometimes you've got to, just like Shelley said, if you're running low. We try to eat as much stuff out of our freezer that we've done on our own. Yep. I mean, you can't every time. Nobody's going to do it all the time. If they are, they're probably lying to you. I mean, nobody's going to eat everything they raise off their place all the time. So,
but going forward, I want to grow our sheep herd.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Sheep are easy. I mean, we've got sheep right now, and they're pretty easy. The only bad thing about sheep is they want to die for no reason sometimes.
Don't tell me that.
They do.
I don't want to know that.
They do. I've come out before and had a ewe dead as a doornail. Don't know why. Nothing. There were no bites, nothing on her. She was just laying out in the field, dead as a doornail. And somebody's like, "Why didn't you send her off to get an autopsy?" I'm like, "It's a freaking $200 sheep, and you're gonna spend a bunch of money doing an autopsy." I'm like, "You're doing government math on that deal." I was like, "I don't really care." So,
well, I mean, I guess if you had a bunch of them die, it'd be good to know what was going on.
But in reality, sheep are pretty easy. Let them go out there. The only thing sheep need is to be protected from coyotes or anything like that, and they need good grass, and that's it. Grass and water, and you're good to go.
Well, hopefully it works.
Yeah, it will. But you got amazing ewes, though. I mean, they're great. Now my ewes are small and my lambs are small, and that's the way that I've done it because my ewes are a small frame ewe, so I got a ram that throws smaller babies, and I can get into that in a little bit. So I don't have these gigantic. You see some of these guys that are showing their rams and stuff, and I mean, it looks like a stinking pit bull. I mean, they're sitting there like this, these big meaty things, and I'm like, I don't want that because they're throwing too big of babies, And
So
then
what do you mean when they throw too big of babies? What's that? Why is that a problem? I thought you would want a lot of meat on your ram or.
Well, the biggest problem I had with sheep, like I said, my ewes are a smaller frame ewe. And the ram that I had, my first ram I had, he was too big, and the babies were too big. I had to pull a 15-pound baby, a 15-pound lamb. The lamb died when I was pulling it, and then I thought the ewe was going to die. So he was just throwing too big of babies, and my ewes couldn't handle it. I had all kinds of problems those first 2 years with babies and having to pull babies and stuff like that. So I got rid of that ram. I sold him to a guy that had Dorpers, and the Dorper sheep are a lot bigger bodied sheep. And I was like, he would be great for a bunch of Dorpers. So I sold him. I got another ram that threw smaller babies because I talked to the lady. She was like, yeah, and she had smaller framed ewes too. He's thrown babies that are 6 to 7 pounds, and I have not had a problem once since I got him. I'll come out in the morning, and there's just babies on the ground. I mean, it's like no pulling, no doing nothing. The only problem I've had is one of the ewes had triplets, and we had to bottle feed one of the triplets, and that it was a run of the litter and everything, and she just wasn't going to make it. We did everything we could to keep her alive, but she ended up dying like 3 or 4 days later. But that's the only problem that I've had since I switched to that ram, that smaller framed ram.
Well, and when you're thinking about doing homesteading, these are things that you need to consider. You need to think about, especially if you're homesteading while working a full-time job.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're not, like when Jason's talking about getting up in the morning and there's sheep on the ground, he didn't have to do anything with that. Yeah. And if you've got lambs out there that are having big babies and they need help and you're at work and you're not there, you're going to come home to a dead sheep and a dead baby and everything. So it is a nightmare. I mean, now with ours, when I notice we've got a baby, I just come out, watch for a little while, make sure it's nursing, and if it's up and nursing, I'm like, I'm letting you alone. I'm not doing anything. So I'll let it nurse, and then later that afternoon I'll come in and grab a hold of it and find out what sex it is, which is male or female only. But I'll find out what sex it is and then write it down in the book and take a picture of it and go on. So you're going to expand your sheep herd to 1,000 head, right? I don't know about getting 1,000 head on 14 acres. I don't see that happening. Feedlot it. But I do want to, I love mutton. Yeah. Seriously, to me, if everything fell apart tomorrow, having chicken and rabbit meat, because rabbit meat is, any kind of dish you make with chicken, you can make with rabbit meat. But having chicken, rabbit, sheep, I could get by with not having beef. Yeah. Because, you've got lamb chops and all of that stuff that is comparable to beef. And those lamb chops from the Katahdin sheep are amazing. That leg of lamb we did a while back, I loved it. But if, of course I'm going to continue to buy beef from the lady that I get that from. But, like I said, if everything fell apart tomorrow, I feel like what I have on my place right now, which I need to get a ram lamb. I want to get one from somebody else that's not Jason's herd. But I feel like we could sustain ourselves with the protein that we have. Yeah. And a good reason, not just bacon, but a good reason to have pigs around is pigs are loaded with fat. When you get into raising protein, like rabbits, even though rabbits are fat and fluffy and they look big and everything, they are not. Rabbits are the most lean. It's like they're leaner than deer. Yeah. So you can't sustain yourself physically on something with, protein with no fat. So that's where pigs come in. Pigs are loaded with fat. They have a whole fat cap on their back. And the bigger hogs, like what we have right now, that fat cap can be as much as like 3 or 4 inches thick, depending on the size of that hog. And that's what you make lard out of and all that kind of stuff. But the smaller pigs that we're going to go to, even though they're smaller, they still, produce that fat. And you can mix that in with whatever lean type of meat that you have and get that into your diet and everything. Or make lard and cook in the lard and all that kind of stuff. But even without having beef, I feel like we got a good start to getting meat independent, I guess.
Yeah.
If we had to be and weren't able to get beef.
Yeah. And I mean, with sheep, if you're looking, your lamb crop, you want to shoot for 150% lambing rate. So every ewe should have 1.5 babies. So, I mean, they throw twins all the time. Our lambing rate this year was like 167%. So we're shooting, over 1.5
Isn't it like the first year they usually have one, and then after that they start doing twins? And
generally, that's
stuff?
what I've seen with mine. But I mean, we've had good lambing rates. So I mean, if you got that one ewe, I mean, you've got 4 ewes right now. So you could have, if you're doing it right, you could have 6 to 8 lambs on the ground when they all lamb. So I mean, it can really multiply fast for you on that. And you're looking at 5 months gestation on that. So from the time your ram gets in there, 5 months later, you can have lambs on the ground, and then feed them out, and you're set and ready to go.
Meat, right?
Yeah. And if you really want to do it intensely, you can get 3 breeding cycles in 2 years. So, I mean, it's kind of hard on them. Some guys do it, some guys don't. My whole system that I rely on is the ram stays out there all the time, and when he feels it's necessary, I let him do it. So we don't keep it on a whole schedule. I'm like, that's nature. I was like, if we're supposed to have babies, we'll have babies. And you can tell when a ewe's pregnant, she starts looking like she swallowed a couple footballs.
Yeah.
And right when she gets close to dropping one of the lambs, you can see her sac really fills up with milk, and you can tell within about a day or two when you're going to have lambs.
That's kind of how I am with chickens. A lot of people will put like lights in their chicken coop and stuff, because in the wintertime when the days get shorter, chickens will stop laying, and that's normal. That's you'll see all kinds of videos on YouTube and in homesteading circles and all that kind of stuff, people talking about, why aren't my chickens laying and everything. Well, when the days get shorter, they need sunlight to lay. And when the days get shorter, they stop laying. So in the past, especially big farm, setups and everything, they will go, they'll light up chicken coops and everything to get that light, whether it's UV light, I guess they would use. But they kind of extend the day so they can get more laying out of those hens. And I don't think it's natural, so I don't do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you do it, that's fine. It's whatever you want to choose to do, but I just want to let the chicken be a chicken and do what the chicken does. And I'm not really into doing artificial things to get them to produce more than, what they need to do. And we breed our rabbits and all that kind of stuff, but I try not to overdo that. I don't want to be, which rabbits are prolific. If you get into raising rabbits, you'll very soon figure out that you got a ton of rabbits. So you got to kind of be careful and all of that. And people raise them differently and everything, in colonies and all that kind of thing. But I think it's better just to let nature do its thing and not step in and interfere in that too much. I don't like to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, as far as my journey, the way I kind of got started, Shelly came in more towards the homesteading aspect. I started more in the preparedness and the prepper sphere. Before I had guns, ammo, did all the cool stuff. I would hunt all the time. Had the guns and ammunition. I ended up it was 2009, 2010. Got divorced. Was over with that. Figured I needed to build a new place. I built the place where I'm at now. We've got 8 acres where I live. Built this house, got everything going. I could see kind of what was going on and started delving and researching in more on long-term food storage, stuff like that. I was like, I've got me and my oldest one that I'm responsible for. So we started prepping and doing that. I started buying more guns, more storable food, stuff like that. And then ended up meeting my wife. We got married. I was still buying long-term food storage. She was in on it with me. The funniest thing, we weren't married yet. We were still dating, and I found out about the Mormon food storage.
Right.
Down they've
I've
got
never
one.
been to one of those places, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the Mormon storehouses, and I was researching it online. I was like, you can go down there and dry can your own food, get bulk food storage and all this. And they were open on Wednesdays and like every other Saturday. So I told my Whitney, I told her, I was like, let's go down there. And she was like, I don't know about this. She was like, this is going to be creepy. And I was like, come on. I was like, go down there with me. I said, we'll get a bunch of stuff and come back home. And she was like, I don't know. She was like, but if it's creepy and they start acting weird, she was like, I'm out. And I'm like,
she thought she was walking into a cult or something?
Yeah, she really didn't know what was going on. So we run down to Hendersonville, get down there. Everything's cool. It's like a bunch of like old blue-haired women, and they're just nice as can be. It's like talking to your grandma, and they're like, "Well, honey, you can get this, you can get that, and everything." And she goes, "What church do you go to?" And I'm thinking, I'm like, if I'm not a Mormon, are they going to kick me out of here? So I was like, I don't really know. And she was like, well, do you go to this church or this church? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, okay.
So you lied to him about what church you went to.
Well, we just kind of left it at that. So I got my food and left. But I figured out later you didn't have to be a Mormon to go down there.
Right.
So, but probably the funniest story about food storage is I got a ton of powdered milk. And I was like, this stuff is going to go everywhere when you're pulling it out and putting it in Mylar bags. So I told Whitney, I'm like, how can we do this? And I came up with it. I was like, let's take, because my shower is a big shower and it's got a bench on each side of it. And I was like, let's take a chair and put in the center of it and put the 50-pound bags of powdered milk. So I had a 50-pound bag of powdered milk and we were putting it in smaller Mylar bags. So her and I are standing in the shower and we've each got a Mylar bag on the bench and there's a 50-pound bag in the center on a chair. So we're filling it up. And I was like, if this stuff goes everywhere, worst case scenario, we can just wash it down the drain. So we spent like 2 hours in the shower doing that, which is pretty funny.
Was this before you were married?
Yeah, this was before we were married. So she did some weird stuff.
I think I kind of get it now. Like, I don't even know how I would have reacted to somebody like, let's go, I got a 50-pound bag of dried milk and we got it. I don't know. That's just weird.
Oh, it was kind of funny. I mean, we still laugh about it. I still think about it all the time. But
she's like, our first date was in the shower.
Yeah.
We were separating out a 50-pound bag of dry milk.
No, our first
that
date
didn't go the way you thought it was going to go.
Yeah, our first date was pretty funny. I'll tell that story if I get permission. She might not like it, but our first date was pretty funny. But yeah, after that, I mean, Whitney and I got married, and I'd always wanted to raise some animals, and I'm like, let's do something. So I went ahead and built a chicken coop, and I was like, we're going to get chickens, and she's like, okay, cool, whatever. So we got chickens, stuck them down probably where they shouldn't have been in like zone 3. They get picked off every now and then, but we were doing good. I mean, we had our chickens, all that kind of stuff. It was great, and I was like, I've always wanted cows, and I love cows because my mom grew up on a cattle farm. I was like, I want some cows, but I'm like, I just can't do that right now. So I was like, let's get some sheep. I was like, I can talk Whitney into sheep. So I called my buddy that had sheep. He was like, yeah. He's like, he said, I'll sell you a ewe and a couple lambs of hers. And I'm like, all right, cool. So we did that. So we got Mama Sheep, and Mama Sheep is still around and amazing. We had her, and we got she had twins, so we got those. And then I'd built the sheep shack, is what we call it. I built it in the shop, took the Bobcat, pulled it out where it needed to go, put my temporary fence up, and I'm like, I'll get everything fenced off later, perimeter fence. And then I'm like, hey, honey, we need some livestock guard dogs. And she was like, okay, what? And she didn't really want to get them, and I'm like, we need them to protect the sheep, kind of thing.
Right.
So luckily, I found. We're close to an elementary school, and I got to finding that the assistant principal raised sheep, and had livestock guard dogs. So I got to talking to him. He's like, yeah, he's like, I've got a pair. If you want, it's a mom and a daughter. He said, I'll give you a smoking deal on them. So I got Joe and Weezer, a mom and daughter team. They're half Anatolian Shepherd and half Great Pyrenees. So we've had Joe and Weezer for several years now. Awesome dogs. They do their job, have not lost any animals to predators or anything like that. So we've got our sheep, we've got our chickens. Ran that for a while. Finally got all my perimeter fence done to where the animals, we can rotate them around, all that kind of stuff. And then one of my buddies, I was talking to him, and it's kind of the same thing with you. It's like, hey, he bought two feeder pigs, two female feeder pigs, didn't know they were pregnant, and the guy he bought them from didn't know either. So he's got these pigs out at his farm. He says, I show up one morning, there's piglets running around. And I'm like, ooh. And he's like, he was like, if you come catch some of these piglets, he said, you can have them for free.
There you go.
I'm like, all right, cool. So Whitney gets home. I'm like, hey, we're getting some feeder pigs. And she's like, the hell we are. And I'm like, why not? I was like, we can get 2 feeder pigs.
She was on board with everything up until then.
Yeah, I had to push a little bit. But I'm like, we can get these pigs, feed them out for a little while, and then we can go get bacon. And she's like, no, we're not doing that. She's like, they're going to stink. It's going to be nasty. I'm not taking care of them. And I'm like, okay. She goes to work, comes home later on, and she's like, what are you doing? I was like, I was out there driving T-post and putting fence up. And she was like, are we getting pigs? And I was like, yes, we are. So the funny part about it was, I called my buddy. I was like, hey, the pen's up. They're ready to go. Everything's good. And he's like, come out to the farm and we'll catch them. So we go out there. It's me and, yeah, Lincoln was born. Lincoln was only, I think Lincoln might have been 6 months old or something like that. So Whitney's holding Lincoln. My oldest son is out there with his buddy. And so there's 4 of us. We're running around this barn stall trying to catch these little bitty piglets. So finally we get like a fishing net to catch these things. Whitney's standing there laughing. She goes, this is like the freaking redneck Olympics, y'all chasing pigs. So finally, after like 2 hours, we get these stupid piglets loaded. Bring them back here, throw them out there. Everything's great. I'm doing, going out feeding them and watering them and everything. Whitney kind of comes out and looks every now and then. So I don't know how big these pigs are supposed to be before you butcher them. And I was going to take them off. I'd never butchered pigs before. I was like, I had a guy I was going to call. He goes, take a picture of them and set a 5-gallon bucket beside it. And he said, I can tell you, kind of what weight they are.
Wow.
And he said, I need a 5-gallon bucket for scale. I was like, all right, cool. Sent him the picture. Like an hour later, he goes, you need to bring them pigs. And I was like, all right, cool. Set up a date.
So how much did they weigh? Or about how much did they weigh?
They were like 450 and 430.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And so we take them up there. We're unloading them.
So these were big hogs.
Yes.
Like Berkshire or something like that. They were big
These
hogs.
were full grown, monster pigs. So we get them unloaded at the thing, and I'm looking around, and I didn't know what butcher weight was. They're usually looking 275 is where they want them for butcher weight.
Yeah.
So we unload these 2 pigs of mine, and I'm looking around. I look at the guy. I said, "Why are y'all butchering these babies? Because these market weight pigs look like babies compared to mine." He goes, "Dude, that's market weight." He's like, "Your pigs are freaking enormous." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So, so we went ahead, like a week and a half later, he called me. He's like, your pigs are ready. The meat tasted amazing compared to the crap you buy at the store.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it's funny. Pork, if I eat pork from the store, I get heartburn as opposed to the pork I've raised here. I can eat the pork that we raise here, and I do not get heartburn. But if I go buy a pork chop from the store and eat it, I get heartburn immediately.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
And I don't know what it is. So, but one of the real funny stories, if my brother ever hears this, he'll be pissed. But so we're out there. I call my parents and I'm like, hey, we've got to load these pigs up. Can you come up and watch the kids? And they're like, yeah, sure. And I call my brother. I'm like, hey, will you come help me get these pigs loaded? And he was like, yeah. And I'd been taking the trailer and backing the trailer down there at the gate, leaving the gate open, and was feeding the pigs in there. So I was like, this will be easy. Of course, it's wet and nasty and rainy. So we're messing around down there. And finally my brother gets here, and he goes to step over the fence, and he kind of stumbles a little bit and goes down, and both his hands come down in the mud. And he was like, "Is that just mud?" I was like, "No, it's probably pig shit in there too." And he's like, "It's just mud." And I was like, "Sure." So he's
yeah, that's all it is.
yeah,
That's
like
good.
30 seconds of being down there helping us, he's already like elbow deep and has got pig crap all over him, mud. And he's like, "These things better taste good." So
now pigs are smart.
oh yeah,
I mean, I think a lot of people think that they're not. They are. Pigs are very smart. They remember stuff.
yeah,
If you hit a pig, it'll remember it.
yep,
More than likely that pig won't turn its back to you ever again.
yeah.
You know, they might not come at you, but sometimes they'll come at you if you're not careful. But they remember everything that you do.
Oh yeah,
They're very intelligent animals.
yeah. So our first delving on feeder pigs was fine, except for trying to load those things. The meat was amazing. I was tickled to death with it. I'm like, we're probably going to do this again. So, coming along, I don't know how long after that, I finally convinced Whitney. I was like, "Can we start raising some pigs?" And I showed her these cute little Juliana pigs and all this. And I was like, "They don't get real big. It's easy." I was like, and she's like, "Okay, that's fine." So I got a breeding pair of those, and man, they multiply freaking fast.
Yeah,
and
they
I'm just
do.
like, we got to do something with this. And these stupid people that are selling them on Facebook and everything, and everybody's like, "Oh, you can get $300 or $400 for one of these Julianas." You can't get $300 or $400 for a Juliana. I took some to an auction and got $10 a piece for these things, and I'm like, just sell them and get rid of them. I want them gone. So we butchered all our Julianas that we've got.
Don't you still have a male out there though?
Yes, I've still got one
Yeah.
male, but he's too small to do anything. He can't reach. So he's pretty well impotent on that deal. But then I picked up our friends that we talked about on the other episode that are in KSL. I picked up some pigs from them. I've still got a sow and one of her babies. I don't have room in the freezer. I mean, it was planning on butchering these things, but I don't have room in my freezers for anything right now.
Good problem to have, right?
Yeah, and we're feeding these things for almost free, so it's not costing a ton of money to keep these. It costs me a little bit of time every week to go grab the food scraps from a couple different places. But we've got pigs now, and like we said before, we're going to switch to the Cooney Coons and do a smaller pig where they can go in and graze. And realistically, we can run these Cooney Coons with the sheep. So that's my plan, and that way I don't have different animals in different places, and everybody can be in the same place and not split up. So
why did you decide? You said earlier that you started out in, like preparedness and doing that kind of thing. What's the difference between the whole preparedness and homesteading? What caused you to get into homesteading?
I got more into homesteading. First thing, like I said, I've always wanted to raise some kind of animals because I find it enjoyable and it's fun. It's cool going out there and looking at your sheep and petting them and stuff like that. Even Ginger, my Hereford bottle baby cow, she's a pain in the butt, but she's nice to go out there and pet. It's fun to do. But you can only with the preparedness part of it, you can only stock so much food. Yeah. I mean, you can only stock so much food and stuff like that you're going to need to survive. And if you've got a year's supply of food, and when you crack that, what are you going to do on day 366 for you and your family? You've got to have a resupply plan. And with homesteading, you've got a resupply plan.
Yeah.
Not even if it's not 100% sufficient, you've got some kind of resupply plan. You're not going to be eating filet mignon every day, but hey, you might be eating rabbits and you might be eating tomatoes for dinner, but you're still going to be alive and you're going to have a plan of what's going on. It's just that, and being more self-sufficient with it. You know where your food's coming from. Yeah, I can stock all kinds of great food, but if I don't know where that food's coming from, it's kind of like you're not doing yourself any favors. And just most people get into preparedness, that are into preparedness, switch over if they've got any kind of property or if they've got any kind of logic, they switch over to more of the homesteading to where they can be more self-sufficient. I mean, that's exactly what I did, and that's the cool thing about our festival we do, because there's two circles and they overlap.
Yeah.
And that's where I think both of us are in that overlap of the preparedness and the homesteading aspect, we're in both those quadrants, and people really like it that way with our festival. And then after we got pigs, I decided it'd be a good idea. I was like, I want a milk cow. And Whitney's like, why? I was like, I want to go out. I want to go out and milk a cow. And I'm like, when the world ends and we have an EMP, I was like, I can have milk. And I don't even drink freaking milk. I hate milk. The only time I have milk is on cereal, if I ever eat cereal. And she's like, why do you want this? I was like, I just want it. Let me get a milk cow. And she's like, okay. So I find a Jersey cow that's tame. We run over a couple hours, look at her. Everything's great. Take her, bring her home. She's got 2 calves on her, which, I mean, at Jersey could take 2 calves. Got 2 calves on her, wind up.
So did you bring the calves home too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those calves were on her and
I
everything.
remember when I met you, you had the Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we end up raising those 2 calves. We butchered them here, and everything was great. I mean, it was good. I mean, it was kind of a pain in the butt, but for everybody out there, a milk cow, the juice is not worth the squeeze for me. I was like, I do not want to milk this thing anymore. I do not want to do it. It just was not. I don't like milk that much. So
I mean, I guess if you got like a whole bunch of kids and all of that, and you're going to use all that, and people can, you've got other people that can help you milk, and that's a lot of maintenance.
Yeah, it was just not worth it for me. So we ended up selling our Jersey. I did have we've still got Ginger. Ginger is a Hereford bottle baby. We raised her from a bottle. She's had 1 calf so far, Mark.
She's beautiful.
Yeah,
she's beautiful. She's a beautiful cow.
She's spoiled rotten and kind of a pain in my butt, honestly. So, but Ginger's looking for a new home, honestly. Her and her bull calf Mark, they're looking for a new home. They're not going to go cheap, and that's the thing. Like, I put her on Facebook, and people are like, well, I'll give you this much for her. And I was like, yeah, I bet you will. And you're going to take her to the stockyard and sell her for twice as much. I was like, I'm not stupid. I was like, if I'm going to do that, I'll take her and sell her at the stockyard. But she's so stinking sweet. I mean, you can literally take this cow and put a grass string around her neck and walk her up and down the road if you wanted to with just a grass string.
She needs the right home. Yeah.
So, but that's where we're at. We're figuring the cattle on this small an acreage, it's just not worth it. I mean, because we've got to AI the cows if we want babies. And I'm like, it's just a pain in the butt doing that. I don't want a bull on this small of an acreage. And also, as far as animal unit wise, for every cow you can have 4 to 5 sheep. And I can get a heck of a lot more meat off those 4 or 5 sheep than I can that cow, especially with the times, as far as breeding one and them growing out and stuff like that. Yeah. It's just you can raise a lot more on a small acreage. And like I said, the lamb that we've done and eaten, it's amazing. It's just as good, if not better, than beef. So that's kind of where we're at. Future plans, I'm building a bunkhouse, hopefully, over that way on the wall. Doing that, I've got to finish my greenhouse. We got the wild hair to build a greenhouse that's still not finished.
He has an amazing looking greenhouse. I know it's not done yet, but it's tall. It's gonna be,
if it ever gets done.
He's gonna be able to grow trees in there and stuff. It's pretty good size.
That's the plan. Whitney wants to grow some citrus in there.
Citrus trees, yeah.
So we're going to try some citrus in there. But that's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of our backstory, is how we got from where we started to here. Shelly started more on the homesteading side. I started on the prepper side. And we've kind of both, Shelly's grown a little bit more in the preparedness. I've grown a lot more in the homesteading stuff. So, but that's about done it for today. Guys, we'll be back later on with another episode number 3, and we'll have a topic for it. We're going to kind of change up the format a little bit. We're going to try to do a few news articles and stuff like that, and some things. If you've got any questions that you want to ask either one of us, email us at jason@kentuckysustainableliving.com or Shelly at kentuckysustainableliving.com. You can email us, ask us your questions, or if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment with your question and we'll answer it in the next couple episodes. Is there anything else you got, Shelly?
That's it. I hope y'all have a fantastic day, and God bless y'all.
All right. See you.